Hereditary is a 2018 American supernatural horror tragedy film written and directed by Ari Aster, in his feature film directorial debut. It stars Toni Collette, Alex Wolff, Millie Shapiro, and Gabriel Byrne as a family haunted by a mysterious presence after the death of their secretive grandmother. Hereditary premiered on January 21, 2018, in the midnight section at the 2018 Sundance Film Festival, 4, and was theatrically released in the United States on June 8, 2018. 5. It was a critical and commercial success, making over $80 million on a $10 million budget to become A24's highest-grossing film worldwide. 6. Artist Annie Graham lives in Utah with her husband Steve, their 16-year-old son Peter, and their eccentric and reserved 13-year-old daughter Charlie. At the funeral of her secretive mother, Leigh, Annie delivers a eulogy explaining their fraught relationship and her mother's extremely private life. A week later, Steve is informed that Ellen's grave has been desecrated, and Annie thinks she sees an apparition of Ellen in her workshop. At a support group for the bereaved, Annie reveals that the rest of her family suffered from mental illness that resulted in their deaths, and Ellen was a significant figure in raising Charlie. To attend a party, Peter lies that he is going to a school event, and Annie forces him to take Charlie with him. Unsupervised, Charlie eats cake containing nuts and falls into anaphylactic shock. As Peter drives her to a hospital, she leans out of the window for air. When he swerves to avoid a dead deer, she is decapitated by a telephone pole. In shock, Peter drives home and leaves Charlie's corpse in the car. The family grieves following Charlie's funeral, heightening tensions between Annie and Peter and causing Annie to behave coldly towards Steve. Peter is plagued by Charlie's presence around the house. Annie is befriended by a support group member, Joan. Annie tells her she used to sleepwalk and recounts an incident in which she woke up in Peter's bedroom to find herself, Peter, and Charlie covered in paint thinner with a lit match in her hand. Joan teaches Annie to perform a séance to communicate with Charlie. Annie convinces her family to attempt the séance. Objects begin to move and break, terrifying Peter, and Charlie seemingly possesses Annie until Steve douses her with water. Annie suspects that Charlie's spirit has become malevolent. She throws Charlie's sketchbook into the fireplace, but her sleeve also begins to burn. She retrieves it and heads to Joan's apartment for advice, but Joan is gone. Annie notices that Joan's welcome mat resembles her mother's craftwork. It is also revealed that rituals inside the apartment involve pictures of Peter. Annie goes through her mother's possessions and finds a photo album linking Joan to Ellen, and a book with information about a demon named Paimon who wishes to inhabit the body of a male host. In the attic, Annie finds Ellen's decapitated body with occult symbols on the wall written in blood. At school, Peter slams his head against his desk, breaking his nose, and is brought home. Annie shows Steve her mother's body in the sketchbook. She begs him to burn the sketchbook so she can sacrifice herself to stop the haunting, but he thinks she has gone mad and accuses her of desecrating Ellen's grave herself. Annie throws the book into the fireplace, Steve bursts into flames, and Annie is possessed. Peter awakens to find his father's body. Annie chases him into the attic, which is decorated with occult imagery. Levitating, Annie beheads herself with a piano wire as naked coven members look on. Peter jumps out of the window. As he lies on the ground, a light enters his body and he wakes up. He follows Annie's levitating corpse into Charlie's treehouse, where Charlie's crowned, severed head rests atop a mannequin. Joan, other coven members, and the headless corpses of his mother and grandmother bow to him. Joan addresses him as Charlie and swears an oath to him as Paimon, stating that he has been liberated from his female host and is free to rule over them. Ari Aster has an uncredited voice cameo as Annie's boss, who calls to offer support after the tragedy she has been experiencing. Kathleen Chaffant makes an uncredited appearance as Ellen Leigh, Annie's mother. Aster refers to her as the sweetest person in the world. 7. Writer-director Ari Aster embarked on a career in the film industry while a student at the American Film Institute. He scripted and directed 2 provocative short films, The Strange Thing About the Johnsons and Munchausen, bringing him under the scope of A24. 8-9, Aster originally pitched Hereditary as a family tragedy, careful not to call it a horror film outright. 10. A fan of domestic dramas, Aster incorporated themes of the genre into his script, envisioning a film rooted in family dynamics, trauma, and grief, Carrie and the Cook, The Thief, His Wife and Her Lover were works Aster specified as influences on Hereditary. 11. He interpreted the film as two halves which are completely inextricable from each other. It begins as a family tragedy and then continues down that path, but gradually curdles into a full-bore nightmare. 12. The script reflects a real-life incident from 2004 in Marietta, Georgia, in which John Kemper Hutcherson accidentally decapitated his childhood friend and passenger, Frankie Braum, on a telephone pole, after the latter had leaned his head from the vehicle to relieve the symptoms of his inebriation. Hutcherson then drove home with Braum's headless corpse in the car and fell asleep, until a passerby, walking with his toddler, noticed Braum's body still in the truck the next morning and notified authorities. 13. Toni Collette was one of the first actresses Aster sought for the role of Annie Graham, a miniaturist and the matriarch of the Graham family. 14. Though Collette was reluctant to work on a horror film, the script's grounded approach to the genre convinced her to commit to the project. He, Aster, just really understood the dynamics in the family, has such an understanding of what it is to be human, what it is to experience loss. 9.